Let's do this. Get everything going on here. I'm your host, Watson Prunier from Battle4Freedom on Mojo Fiber Radio, and we're going to have some fun with this day. So much to do, so much to say. We're going to start off with American Pride Roasters Coffee, the official coffee of Mojo Fiber Radio. The reason why we share this out is because of the fact that American Pride Roasters Coffee is darn good coffee, and you should have it. No matter what the competition may say to you, American Pride Roasters Coffee, which is historically great coffee, is the coffee that you want. I don't know how many times I can say coffee until you understand I want you to get American Pride Roasters Coffee. In the midst of this, as we continue to hear about Mojo Fiber Radio, go to mojo50.com. Continue to support them. Mojo50.com. Click the schedule button. See the shows that are available to you. Click the donate button if you're in the spirit of giving. And also do me a favor, click the shop button if you just feel the need to have fun and go shopping and go from there. New Life Holistic is one of the other sponsors that we have. This, if you're suffering a wide variety of ailments that, most of pop psychology today tries to give you drugs and more drugs to overcome your sickness, you may want to look into biofeedback therapy by Anthony Malchiotti. New Life Holistic is a route that you need to consider. You can't go wrong with that. Trust me, I have a lot of people who are really blessed by the efforts of Anthony Malchiotti and his crew. He's a one-man crew, but he gets it done, and he gets people with a wide variety of ailments and excited to basically say they are appreciative of what he has done as a result of their sessions of therapy with him. Biofeedback therapy, Anthony Malchiotti, let him know that you guys care and you want to look into what is going on there. Biofeedback therapy, a great thing for you to do. If you want to interact, you can go to facebook.com/Battle4Freedom. I see Heidi, I see Lep. Thank you very much for being part of the program. This is going to be a lot of fun as we sit here talking about the Radical Review, Part 1, the Tenets of Antiracism Education. So let me set the stage for you to understand why I'm going to go down this route. And I think I'm going to do this Radical Review for not just days, but weeks, months. Every now and then I'm going to just do a radical review. As everybody's just freaking out about the decision last Friday. One of the things that I do is I watch the trolls, and I just sometimes look at their websites just to see what they did. And there's this one teacher here in Indianapolis who is just apoplectic about not school choice, but do what teachers say. Teachers are the only solution to solving America, and also be open to exposing your kids because he believes that the kids belong to them. Here, this is a teacher who wants all kids to learn all things, no limits, no barriers, should be registered as a pedophile, but I decided to look at their profile and look at some of the different things. There's a wide variety of different topics that we can talk about here with that. But I'm going to just focus on one of the segments of what he was talking about. And it was very disturbing. And I'm going to poke some holes at some of the different things that I saw here. And hopefully in the midst of this, we can have some good discussion and, we'll learn something from one another. Lep is half of the team of Ain't You a Peach. You can catch them on the weekend. You remember when I told you earlier about going to mojo50.com/schedule? That's where you can find out when he is alive. Look for Ain't You a Peach. You can get catch their show, and you won't be disappointed. So as we sit here and we're going to talk about this. So again, I was at this person's, and probably would define the person as a quote unquote lefty, if we were going to use the term loosely, that, we want to wake up people. And sometimes we need to just sit back, not argue, but just look at what they are saying. Sometimes you can't have a discussion with them because they're so ingrained in their ideology that they don't want to hear. They don't want to have a discussion. They don't want to consider another point of view. So instead of being as quote unquote closed-minded as they usually accuse us, I decided to do this. I'm going to look at their site. I'm going to look at their pages. I'm going to look at what they're passionately sharing. and we're going to go review from there. So one of the things that I saw on the page, and this was a result of hi Jamie, thank you for being part of the program as well too. She's the other half of Ain't You a Peach. You can enjoy her and go from there. So this was under an anti-racism post from this individual, and so I decided to get some screenshots, and this was part of the stuff that's on this teacher's site here in Indianapolis. And he says, teaching about race and racism to people who don't want to know. 8 types of privileged resistance. Privileged resistance arises when we are asked to abandon the denial that allows us to live in ignorance of our own privilege and the ways it shapes our lives, or at the expense of the whole groups of people. At the expenses of the whole group. I mean, I know I have spell check errors. I know that there are sometimes I just post the wrong title to my program. But a lot of the stuff that's being shared by these vanguards of justice and equality and equity, thanks Josh and Jill for being part of the program, there's some major errors. It's not just the doctrine that's bad, the grammar, everything. And trust me, I am no grammar police. I definitely need remediation on many cases. But we're going to spend some time here, and we're going to talk about this whole idea. There's this attitude that the privileged resistance to learning about racism, about race and racism, which are all illusions. They're all illusions because of the fact that there's only one human race. There's different ethnic groups, but racism is literally, race and racism are illusion terms that basically mask over the deeper seated issues, which is sin in all of us. I was listening to, I hadn't listened to a while, and I yesterday decided to listen to watch one of the broadcasts of Stu Peters, and he had Ben Carson on, and he and Ben Carson were in the discussion, and they were talking about the white replacement situation, and Stu tried to get Ben Carson to give feedback on how he felt about the idea of white replacement, the white replacement theory, and Ben rejected the notion of that. Dr. Ben Carson, rejected the notion of, because he said that this is not the focus of where we need to be, because everybody's being affected right now. And now, if anyone agrees with some of the tenets of the white replacement thing, it's me. I literally almost wrote a book. I started a book talking about white replacement theory, and then God convicted me, and he said to me, no, you're not going to do that, because of the fact that you're going to focus on the idea that everybody is suffering. Everybody is suffering as a result of the high taxes, high inflation. And that's exactly where Ben went with it. Hello, Paula. Thank you for being part of the program. And I think that there is some credence to this. Is that we're so fixated, focusing on white replacement theory, no matter how true it may be in certain pockets or many pockets in America, is just as bad as the focusing on Black Lives Matter. See, there are privileges on every side, and we just don't want to have that discussion. Everybody is hurting right now. We need to fix the problems that's hurting everybody, not just black people didn't get enough shots during the pandemic. No, or not enough aid during the pandemic. What's the systems in place that are causing people to lose the benefits that if they deserve them? because government spending money is what has us in the inflation that we have right now. Writing checks under Republicans and Democrats has us where we are right now. So we have all been privileged of our broken system. We've been privileged, some more so than others, but the fact is, to say that you didn't get anything from the system, it's a downright lie. It's a misconception, and it's something that needs to be addressed and basically shut down, because people aren't growing. People are remaining ignorant. So let's get into this. Let's spend some time with this, and let's have some fun, because as I look into this, I think that we're about to be enlightened. The first point of what they're talking about on the idea of the first point of where they're trying to go with this whole idea of racism education: silencing and shifting. Cultural gatekeepers. And I love these big, beautiful terms that they use, because it sounds educated, right? But not realizing that cultural gatekeepers is splash or code word. It's less offensive than saying white people. Trust me, they say it later in these definitions. But cultural gatekeepers is just another way of saying colonialists. Cultural gatekeepers are now, and here's the funny part about it, because when you sit here and you talk about cultural gatekeepers, we're living in an era where there are gatekeepers to truth and so much more. But we're going to continue to blame a system that people continue to support. But let's get back to this definition. Cultural gatekeepers, the makers and purveyors of popular culture, the media, those who decide what is in our textbooks and what is left out, have always used denial to render invisible that which the power elite does not want us to know, see, or know. Now, this is very interesting, because as you hear the definitions of what they're breaking down on this issue of anti-racism and the privilege of not wanting to know the truth here, I've got one key question for you in light of this idea of saying cultural gatekeepers are preventing or deciding what's in the media and what's in our textbooks and what's being taught to society. I'm bringing out Sergeant McGruff here. Who's doing the censoring? Who's doing the censoring right now? Because if you're saying that the people who decide what's in our textbooks, so as we are concerned about LGBTQ agenda, things and everything like that being thrown in textbooks and everything like that, right? That, they allow this stuff to be put in the textbooks. Critical race theory, these lies need to be, they're sexualizing children at very early ages to decide what they should be thinking about what reality looks like. But not just basic education, the fundamentals of reading and writing and everything like that. We've got to get them socialized. We're teaching them things that we didn't even teach our kids until they were in the 7th, 8th, 9th, or 10th grade. But now they're learning it in kindergarten by sycophants, not teachers, pedophiles. I got something the other day. I'm going to save that for another day. Brad Stacks and Daily Mojo read something really powerful the other day, and I'm going to include that in another broadcast as we sit here talking about this. Hey, Amy, thanks for joining. As we sit here and we look at this thing, they're talking about who are the gatekeepers of what is being taught. I asked the question, who's doing the censoring? McGruff is asking. You don't need McGruff. You don't need McGruff. You don't even need the mystery van and Scooby-Doo and his friends, Shaggy and them, to determine who's doing the censoring. You'd be completely deaf, mute, blind, to every spectrum of disabled, and not to mock disabled individuals, but even they are bright enough to recognize what's happening here. It's the liberal policies, liberal institutions, liberal media giants that are censoring people, controlling the narrative. The media is liberal, controlling the narrative. What do you have? What do you have? Like 2 or 3 conservative radio shows on the national platform, Fox News, and you can't even really call them conservative anymore. But you turn around and you attack the very few that are out there when 99% of major networks, television media networks, are liberal at heart and to the core. They're the ones and what blacks don't seem to recognize is you're wanting anti-black racism. Look at the people who are in charge, who are doing the censoring, and you think that this is a new thing of what they've been doing? They've been censoring the truth for decades, for centuries, for millennia. But you don't want to look at that. You don't want to consider that reality, that truth. Let's go to another one here. Marginalizing. And I love this because there's a consistent theme in this when we look at these points of what it is that they're doing. Another form of silencing, one in which our students actively participate, is the marginalization of those who speak up to challenge the dominant discourse and or the power elite, threatening their carefully crafted denial. Again, I go back to the censoring, marginalizing the very people that turn around and they want to share. Hey, listen, can we have a discussion about masks? Can we have a discussion about this drug that you want to put in my system? You said it's supposed to help me. But when you sit here and you look at like the likes of a Wanda Sykes, who's out there insulting Clarence Thomas, saying our democracy is gone, that there's complete tyranny and everything like that. But Wanda Sykes is out there when she was standing in for Jimmy Kimmel talking about the idea that, oh, it's only Trump supporting areas only have 40% people vaccinated, but Democrats have 85% people vaccinated, and the Trump supporters call themselves pro-life. Seems like they're pro-death. Oh, is that marginalizing, Wanda? Is that marginalizing? Huh. See, it's so bad, the liberal media is so bad that they've got even black folk marginalizing Samuel Jackson, insulting Samuel Jackson, Whoopi Goldberg. They're turning around and they're sitting there insulting Clarence Thomas. I mean, for some strange reason, the liberal media has a penchant for going after black conservative justices or even just black political figures. Tim Scott, he's an Uncle Tom. Clarence Thomas, he's an Uncle Tom. You know, this is very sinister in the way that they do this. Hey, Curtis, thanks for joining, and it's also to you, Brandon. This is very sickening to the core to see exactly how far they will go to marginalize, insult, ridicule people. And if you just have a question, oh, you're anti-science. Science is real. And you're just a buffoon. You're a Bible-thumping, incest-hugging Neanderthal. But I thought every view was supposed to matter. I thought every opinion was supposed to matter. I thought we're supposed to be inclusive. We're supposed to provide unity. It's just that, you know what? We want everybody in here except you, except your kind. That's the very language of the segregationists. And this is the very language that's happening from the media, from even blacks, gays, whoever you are. Oh, Lord Jesus. Oh, yeah. Brandon. Oh, Lord Jesus, please help us. Let's see. Here it says, control the most innocent, and the ones who don't want it, adults will follow because we give in to the children. In this day and age, discipline is different. We have to be on the fence about abuse or whatever others think. Yeah. See, and the problem is when they marginalize you, they insult you. They basically work on the people that we care about. They people who use hostage tactics to keep us from being able to interact. Now, when someone has a dangerous ideology, and no, the Bible's not a dangerous ideology. No, wanting to kill kids in the womb, that's a dangerous ideology. Wanting to basically put drugs in people's system against their will, threaten their work, threaten their livelihood. That's a dangerous ideology. Wanting to shut down people's ability to express their opinion, that's a dangerous ideology. And who's doing it? Who's doing it? The left. The mediaites in control. Oh my goodness. We can't have that discussion, can we? No, we can't. Yeah. Yeah. LEP is a good one. Back in the day, children were seen but not heard. Their only right was breathing. Now children have more authority than adults. So true. So true. But we're the ones who are sick. We're the ones who are crazy. Lord help us. Curtis says, I'm surprised they don't use climate change to rationalize abortions. Trust me, brother, it's on its way. I think I may have heard it already. Yeah. Oh, here's another good one. Yeah, that's a good one, Curtis. Oh, not that one. Sorry. Said, create division to the kids, and by the time they're out of school, they will have segregated living. Amen. Sad, unfortunately. Oh, and here's the one too. I love this because this is Jamie. She says, sorry, I didn't press the right button. She says, it's all part of indoctrination. Been going on for years, and now only now it is more aimed at race and gender. Yeah, and see, and here's the sad part about that too, is the fact that this one teacher too, he said, if we were really targeting your kids, we'd have if we were really targeting your kids, we'd have them doing their homework. If we were indoctrinating your kids, we'd have them doing their homework on time and handing in all the reports and all this stuff. Really, I mean, it's just the sickest, twisted, sleight of hand nonsense that keeps them from being honest about saying, yes, there is a major problem going on here. Yeah. So I don't know why. I don't know why this is. Lord help us. 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 Some days it's just, I'm just trying not to scream. We're about to go to a break here in a second, and we'll see exactly what's going on here because of the fact that things aren't good. Things aren't good at all. We're in a lot of trouble, and we need to really be praying, folks, because society is crumbling, and it's a quote-unquote intelligence speak like this that's really killing the pulse of society. I'm your host, Watson Prunier from Battle for Freedom on Mojo 5 Radio. Let's go to a break, and I'll talk to you on the flip side. John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have eternal life. Romans 10:14 through 17. How then will they call on him who they have not believed? And how are they to believe in him of whom they have never heard? And how are they to hear without someone preaching? And how are they to preach unless they are sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who preach the good news. But they have not all obeyed the gospel. For Isaiah says, Lord, who has believed what he has heard from us? So faith comes from hearing, and hearing through the word of Christ. 2 Corinthians 5:17. Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away. Behold, the new has come. I share these passages with you because of the fact that we know John 3:16. We probably barely hear Romans 10:14 through 17. And most doubtedly, we never hear 2 Corinthians 5:17. Life as a believer in Christ requires change. To make a decision for Christ, we recognize that there is something wrong in our lives and we need to do different. We need to be better, but we can't be better on our own strength. So we hear the gospel message, moved by the Spirit of God, and we respond. I ask you now, if you've heard the message, please respond and live for his glory. Welcome back, folks. I'm your host, Watson Prunier from Battle4Freedom on Mojo5 Radio, and I appreciate every last one of you as we sit here getting into another broadcast of Battle4Freedom on Mojo5 Radio. Today I'm just trying to talk to you about something very critical. It's the Radical Review Part 1, the Tenets of Antiracism Education. Thank you, Carrie, for joining and being part of the program. As we sit here and we just try to really break up a lot of illusions that have been pushed out there, basically telling us that America is so racist, and we're looking at denials, we're looking at the tenets, we're looking at the belief systems or the points that they get behind, looking at the Radical Review. Let's look at what the radical people are saying and try to better understand exactly what they're saying, and is there any truth to what they're trying to argue. So I think we got up to marginalizing. Did we get to trivializing? Let's get to trivializing. This is the next point in reference to what they say. And speaking of the idea that you have people who are privileged and they don't want to hear the truth about race and racism. Trivializing. Another way to silence or marginalize is to trivialize. And here's the funny part about it. They make 8 points, but a lot of them are the same exact word. See, this is when you know it's really bad, that you don't have an argument, is basically when you regurgitate or you use synonyms to continue to make it seem like you have multifaceted, multi-pointed exposition to the breakdown of the rationalization, demarginalization of black people. Alliterating ignorance, that's what we're doing, is alliterating ignorance. But let's continue to work with your points. Trivializing. Another way to silence or marginalize is to trivialize, because we need another eyes. This is how, now here we go. This is how how white people play down the damage, which claims that racism isn't a big problem anymore, and it's not that bad. When racism is acknowledged, people trivialize by treating it as an isolated circumstance, embodied mean-spirited individuals or crazy fringe groups. You mean the whole idea of yelling out white supremacy? White supremacy? White supremacy? I mean, seriously, when you literally have the Democrat Party and the media constantly, when a white person shoots black people, it's a white supremacist. But when a black person shoots white people, yes, the gunman chose to do such and such. This literally, and many of you continue to buy it as you don't hear them leading the first person in 20 years, not 20 years, the first person in almost 30 years to be labeled a terrorist was the gunman who shot everybody up in New York a few months ago. The first time a black shooter was called a domestic terrorist. You remember when you had the DC snipers? They were sold out on believing that it was a white guy with a bowl haircut. Come to find out it was two black guys who were responsible for the DC shooting, for the sniping in DC. But we don't have that discussion because we have to go with a narrative that's been pushed into us basically in the movies, in the media. That they don't want to report how black people are doing serial things. Oh yeah, speaking of, I'm not going to show. Oh, should I? No. You don't need this imagery because the fact that I'm going to continue to play with what the media does and ignore. Oh no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Because of the fact that we can't talk about the behaviors. We can't talk about the mentalities of what people do. We're not going to talk about their ignorance. Check this out. I'm just going to let you see the video of this. This right here is a very interesting thing. Jealousy over a threesome between passengers sparked 60-person brawl on Carnival Cruise Line. Let me just let that stay in a loop there for you a second. Sparked a 60-person brawl on a Carnival cruise ship dance floor that lasted for an hour and spanned 5 floors. It has emerged that the brawl was triggered after some passengers engaged in a threesome, which then enraged their significant others, leading 40 to 60 people to get involved in the punch-up. 2 people began scuffling on the nightclub dance floor, and the altercation then rapidly got out of control. The fracas began on the 5th floor and lasted for an hour, ending up on the 1st floor of the cruise ship. Video shows security guards clearly outnumbered and completely powerless to stop the large brawl. After the fight, Coast Guard escorted the ship to the dock in Manhattan. No injuries were reported. I'm sorry. If your camera isn't well in seeing exactly the portrayers, there's a lot of weaving going on. There's a lot of weaves flying, and there's a lot of Caucasianly challenged people involved in this brawl. But it's the white privileged people who are denying us our ability to live free and be who we want. And let's see what happens when you're given the freedom to do what you want. Let's carry on in ungodly behavior, threesomes on dance floors, on publicly on Carnival cruise ships. But no. It's white folk who are doing this to you, right? Right. Marginalizing you. Okay. I'll go with you. Not. We're trivializing you. Oh, is that the other one? Nah, that's not the other. There's another one I wanted to show you. Let's close this one here. Because we can't have this discussion, right? We can't have this discussion. We don't want to talk about the whole idea of the roles that we've played in the destructions of our own communities. We just have to blame everybody why things aren't right. Why things aren't right. Let's look at this one here, because this is another powerful one. You want to know what's going on here? I'll tell you what's going on here. You have a police officer during a routine traffic stop. Black man gets out of the car and shoots a police officer in the shoulder on a routine traffic stop. His first goal is to start shooting when he gets out of the car. There's already a gun trained on him, and he turns around and he fires, and he basically is a black man. But no, we don't want to have this discussion because we have to talk about racism in America. We have to talk about oppression in America. And God's going to continue to allow you to live in your unrepentant blackness, killing yourself, committing suicide, intellectual suicide, cultural suicide, and just downright suicide. But no, let's blame white America. Let's blame white America as to why we're dying. Yeah, it's the privileged who don't want to have a conversation about systemic racism. Yeah. Okay, whatever. Let's look at the next one here. As we sit here, we again, we don't want to have this conversation. Rationalizing and entitlement. Again, just more and more and more nonsense. Another way the power elite manufactures, because power elite, another code word for white people with money who budget, who basically don't waste their money on stupidity, on bling and blunts. They don't spend their money on bling and blunts. But hey, they're the power elite. No, they got it. Their credit score is higher than the gas prices right now, and they're not struggling. Oh yeah, Watson, there you are. There you are. You're playing the stereotypes that you enjoy. Check out the videos. Look at your videos on BET for the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years. You're not hiding it. I heard this crazy. I was watching a video yesterday. You know, sometimes Facebook goes into another video and everything like that. And there was a rapper that came on after. And I was like, and he's talking about these bees and hoes on a basketball court. Bees and hoes, and they're just showing booty shaking and everything like that on a video. I didn't look for this intentionally. This came up. I'm like, where's this video? Where's this audio coming from? Because it was on a back screen that my screen was covered. And there's this video of this black guy, common rapper, and talking about bees and hoes and jumping up and down on the basketball court. But we're the ones who never mind. Another way for the power elite manufacturers denials is to temper any responsibility for the aggressive policies and practices with a rationale for what would otherwise be considered unacceptable. You mean the whole idea when you, again, got to go back to Wanda Sykes and everybody who sits there saying if you don't get vaccinated, you ignorant. You're incest humpers. If you don't get vaccinated, you mean that it's acceptable to sit there and when you sit here screaming about my body, my choice, but you don't want to afford people that same choice when it comes to actually getting a jab in them? Rationalizing an entitlement. I mean, you are literally violating the very principles that you're arguing for. The rationalization essentially embedded in the white supremacy construct is a belief in our own white superiority. I mean, think about this. Again, white. Never anything about blackness. But we're going to call out what whites are doing. We never have to have the discussion about what the blacks are doing. An ideology of superiority is a binary. These terms, binary, cis, all this stuff, trying to sound intelligent. But it's code speak for I don't know what to say, but I've got great word salads. And you know what? If you just provide the croutons, it'll be a great situation for you. For the one to be superior requires another to be inferior. Let's stay with that right there. There is so much truth in that. And are there people who are of a certain ethnic persuasion who feel that they are superior than the other? Yes. They're both black and white. Because of the fact that when you sit here, and again, let's just stay with the last 2 years. If you don't get the jab, You are, your mother and father were both brother and sister. Your yeah. Yeah, Slep, I can't share that one online yet, but I mean, this is crazy. Because there are people who literally, we have an administration who, we have a president who said, I will not make mandates for your jobs in December of 2020. I will not make mandates. Less than 10 months later, he has federal mandates going down, and thousands, millions of people lost their jobs because of the mandate that the superior ones said that they would not push upon us. Watch what's happening here. And yes, Trump has some culpability. He was part of the people who shut down the nation to stave off what was going on with the pandemic. Trump has some culpability in this, of the lives of the, not the lives lost because of the virus, of the jobs lost, the economic loss in America. He has some culpability. Biden as well. And we as voters do, because of the fact that we keep putting these buffoons back in office thinking that we're going to get something different, something better. But this ideology of superiority, all you have to just do is look at, do you want, for those who actually have the blue half arc, basically saying, I've got my vaccine, we can do this, move forward, do whatever it is. If you want to see an air of superiority, when you go in and you look at the naysayers and the people who are constantly coming out against people who support the idea of being pro-life, when you look at most of the people who are tearing down and breaking facilities, who are sitting here and vandalizing and everything like that, bet you they have a sticker, I was vaccinated. Bet you most of them have a sticker, I was vaccinated. And yes, Chris Rock definitely has a great PSA video, a public service announcement video on what to do to not get whooped by police. No, you don't get out of the car shooting. But this air of superiority, right now, we see it. What's happening here? Well, just the Trump, family hugging, Bible thumping, gun carrying, gun toting, ingrates, Neanderthals. They don't want to get a vaccine because they too dumb. They what did they say? What did the leaders say on almost every news station? You know what? Most of the people who don't want to get vaccinated don't have an extended college education. They haven't graduated from college. They haven't graduated from a local university. This is the liberal media are the ones who are insulting you if you did not get a jab. Basically saying that most people who have not gotten, it's on NPR, it's on CBS, it's on ABC, it's on CNN. If you did not put yourself in debt getting a college degree, most likely you didn't get the jab. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. Air of superiority. Air of superiority, my foot. Oh, I love this one. Blaming the victim. Blaming the victim. Claiming they are inferior or dangerous and thus deserving of their fate is another form of denial. If the goal is to defend against responsibility, one way to do this is to position those for whom we might otherwise bear responsibility in ways that make it easier for us to justify our treatment to them. Oh, you mean the whole idea of blaming people who don't want to get a jab because of the fact that because if they're not vaccinated, they're the ones spreading the vaccine. I mean, the virus. I mean, literally. That's what the media has been saying. It's a virus. It's a pandemic of the unvaccinated. This has been the language from the media, from big tech. This is the language that has been allowed on media and has not been censored. It is the pandemic of the unvaccinated. Yeah, Brandon. But go to colleges and ask basic civil question on today's topics, and they swing hard left every time. I mean, but blaming the victim because we're going to cast blame. Your system is not working, but we're going to blame the people who aren't abiding by your system. It's their fault that this is not working. Because we're not at 95%, 100%, 100% compliance to mandates, to unfettered sexualization of our children in school, unlimited abortions and sex privileges for children. Let's blame the people who are resisting our means of to basically depopulate the world, climate change, and all these different things. Let's sit there and keep telling them that socialism works, though no country has ever made socialism work. But these kids who have these degrees, who owe hundreds of thousands of dollars for that are basically in underwater basket weaving, all of them. They're hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, working, and $15 an hour, baby, ain't going to cut it. You should have aimed for a job where you could have been making $20,000, $30,000 a year, and you would have been there had you not wasted your time in school and you just walked into many manufacturing places, many offices, many buildings, and you would have that job right now. You'd be making more had you decided to skip school and decided to just go right into the workforce. Oh, but they wouldn't recognize me without a degree. Guess what? By God's grace, I've been doing this for 32 years without a degree. 32 years in IT without a degree. God has allowed me to learn multiple programming languages: Visual Basic, C#, Perl, Java. I'm learning Lua. I'm learning a wide variety. I'm learning scripting for databasing. I'm learning a whole bunch of different things. Don't really need Flash action script anymore because Flash has been taken away. But I've learned a lot of these different things. PHP, you name it. Server administration asked me to build a server. I know exactly how to build a Windows server, a Linux server. Haven't done a Mac server yet. If you want a streaming media server, I can make a streaming media server for you. You want a web server? Do you want IIS from Windows, or do you want to use Tomcat or /Apache for the Linux environment? Which one do you want to use? No education, no public, not public, no high level education. Now, I have been to college, yes, but none of the classes I had taken had anything or inference in what I'm doing with my job. This is ridiculous. But blame the victim. It's the we're dealing with this because the unvaccinated refused to get the jab. Oh, here's a good one. Reverse racism. Let me help you understand something. Reverse racism it's another illusion. It's just racism. Conservatives, stop saying reverse racism. It's not reverse racism. It's racism. When you use the term race, using the term reverse racism is like saying the don't say gay bill. It's just ignorant. Stop saying it. Reverse racism is an illusion. It's a distraction. Reverse racism gives the connotation that it's only done in retaliation, when basically if there's any act of racism, it's basically born out of the individual, not as a response to other racism. If you are committing acts of racism, the seeds have been already in you and the tree is budding forth. the very racism, the very hatred, the very sexism, the very elitism that you have in your life, and the superiority that you believe that you are better than other individuals. Stop saying reverse racism. But let's get into the point of what they say. When we are asked to investigate what it means to be white, we respond defensive. I've had students complain that the classroom perspective and material is too one-sided, particularly if they have been brought into the culturally prevalent idea that white people are the new marginalized, persecuted, and silenced majority. They're not the silenced majority, but they are being silenced. They are, but we can't have that discussion, right? Because of the fact that wait. You don't want to have this. You're angry that people don't want to have the discussion with you. And this is the problem that we have when we try to make our case more important than other people's case. But Watson, we got to take one chunk at a time and everything like that. But who's the first bite? Who gets the first bite? Because if that's the case, there's going to be always people fighting for my bite first. Take me first. Take my topic first. And that's exactly where we are right now. Discomforted, students begin to raise the issue of reverse discrimination, insisting that the playing field, if level, or that people of color get advantages driven by the dominant narrative they experience. They are taking away of assumed privilege as equivalent to systemic discrimination. No. When you systemically push the idea and concept that white ain't right and that black, what was it? Oh my goodness. Black Lives Matter. If you don't, I like the way my buddy said it. If you said Black Lives Matter also, if you just added that word, I think you wouldn't get as much pushback as it is. But when you argue and don't sit here and say that you don't have an air of superiority about blackness. And guess what? That air of superiority about blackness, guess what it is? Hey, baby. Hey, bro. Baby. That's racism. That be racism. That be racist. Hashtag. Hashtag you're a racist. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Let's go to the next one. Oh, my goodness. Number 7. No intent equals no racism. The assumption is that if we do not intend to be racist, sexist, or oppressive, then racism, sexism, and oppression did not happen. We claim that the binary position that I am one of the good ones, and because I'm good, then I cannot be racist. It leaves us feeling self-righteous while we effectively close down any opportunity for meaningful discussion. I agree. Yes and no. Because because you have, if they're doing it on one side, to believe that it's not happening on the other side is what makes meaning discussion never happen. When we talk about, systemic racism and this the ability to continue to attack and try and kill black people. But what about, can we talk about black on black crime? Oh my goodness, there's no such thing as black on black crime. Do I say there's white on white black? I mean, literally, you emotionally get to say, do we say there's white on white crime? No, we don't say there's white on white crime. We just say that there's criminal activity. That whites are involved and whites do this. But to sit here and make it and seem like that cops shooting black people is the only thing taking out black people, when you got black people arguing for black people to be killed in abortion centers, the elitists, the Hollywood elitists who have their money and they don't want any Negroes. Whoo! They don't want any Negroes around. Kill them. Kill the ninjas. Kill the ninjas. But this idea of basically saying, no, not every white person is racist. But we got to push our message. We got to push our message. because we have no platform, but we're going to do it and cast blame instead of looking at the other people, because that's the only way we can do this. Abusive resistance. First, I want to make the distinction between being inclusive and allowing abuse. I address privilege resistance proactively by establishing classroom guidelines. I reference them to. I'm just done with this. I'm done with this stuff. This is not intelligence. This is just regurgitated stupidity, and I'm done with it. Let's go to a positive way. My attitude of gratitude, it takes some time here. Let's do it this way. Folks, there's a lot of ignorance going on right now and foolishness on every side of the aisle that you can imagine. The best way to do this is don't play a part to the ignorance. Don't play a part to the lies. You may not know that individual that you may be discriminating against because of the color of their skin. Instead of playing in the ignorance, have a discussion. If they provide to be the fool, just walk away and save your sanity. I'm your host, Watson Purnier from Battle for Freedom. I'm out.